Hey everybody, it's WALTR reviews again. I just watched Spiderman Across the Spiderverse. And I was thinking whether or not to marinate with the movie or not. But I realized that I was so excited that I think I might be forgetting some of the plot points that were going on in the movie. So I wanted to do um a review as soon as possible, but I didn't want to, like, it's a double-edged sword for me because I don't want to like let my hype drive the review. But wow, I just have that one word, wow, amazing. The art style of this movie, I'm a very big art lover. From the days of my foundation in arts, I learned about pop art, and I learned about watercolor. I learned about so many things that make art so great. I learned about Chinese art, and that made me really proud of my culture because that was something I didn't really know about. And I had to learn it in school because my family doesn't really have that deep connection with the Chinese culture, because especially because we're basically third fourth generation Chinese immigrants from China. uh, and we've been fully integrated into the Malaysian society. So it was a fun thing for me to know, because that kind of just made me understand my roots even more. But I loved how the movie started, because it was just literally a drum solo, and especially because later on in the movie we do hear J.K. Simmons' voice. I was expecting kind of the whiplash joke as well in the first part, but yeah, I felt this one, the sequel, was more on the expansion of Gwen Stacy's journey. Of course, it still had Miles Morales as the main protagonist, but what I mean is there is a very strong subtext that this is very much the connection of Gwen Stacy to Miles Morales, and basically what is driving Miles' story is how and what is going through Gwen's mind when she is thinking about reaching out to Miles again, or brother, or rather to say that she is technically a driving force herself into pushing Miles' story forward, if that makes any sense. Um, so I really liked the aspect that we started on Gwen Stacy and focused on her, because that set the tone for me. This is a 2 hour plus movie. I didn't really feel the runtime. There was one point I did have to check my phone, because I knew somebody was going to text me about the movie, or rather my mom was going to text me where it was. So I did have to check my phone for that. But other than that, I did not feel the runtime. I did think that some parts were a bit clunky, a bit, too much at certain points. I feel like when we were introduced to the spider people, and definitely these are spoilers, so if you have not watched the movie, please don't watch the review, because I don't do no spoiler reviews, because for me that's just practically a waste of time, because you can't really talk about the movie in depth. And what I want to do is talk more in depth about the movie, and especially because this movie had so much going for it. It had the emotions of it. It had the comedy. It had so much callback. It had references that I didn't understand, but they put like a fast text box for non-comic readers to catch up on, as well as certain, like, like there was a character called the Spider Punk, Hobie, right? And he was speaking in Cockney rhyme, and I mean I could guess what he was saying, but for those who aren't as and delved into like British culture, maybe they don't know it, so they put like meanings of it. Um, and I did feel that this movie kind of parallels Kung Fu Panda, because Kung Fu Panda 1 is like he's thinking he doesn't really deserve the Dragon Warrior choice, or the Dragon Warrior title, because he knows that he does not know Kung Fu. And in Miles Morales, the first chapter, he knows that he's not ready to be Spider-Man, but he wants to be Spider-Man because he does idolize Spider-Man, and he does want to learn from the Spider-Man. But in this movie, whereas it's split from Kung Fu Panda 2, because Kung Fu Panda 2 he's really trying to figure out his past. And this one, in Miles Morales Across the Spider-Verse, it's more of him realizing that he was not supposed to be Spider-Man. So it was a bigger conflict for me in that case, because it's like, oh yeah, he was not supposed to get bit by Spider-Man, because initially in the first movie as well there was already a Spider-Man. So there were some parts of it, like in the movie, like they were mentioning the canon, and I was thinking like, what is the canon again? And it took me a while, because I was pretty tired, especially because I was working on the Saturday and I watched it on the Sunday. So I was pretty tired, and I didn't really get that. And then it's at some point it clicked. They were like, oh, we're talking about the metaverse here. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, the canon as in the meta canon. And for me, I feel that the cameos from, I mean, not really cameos, they were really just using the clips of the Amazing Spider-Man and the old Sam Raimi Spider-Man, which is the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I thought that was really well done. I felt that had more of an emotional attachment to me than the cameos of No Way Home, just because in the No Way Home trailers, I kind of expected to see um, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, because there was appearance from Doc Ock, um, as well as the Green Goblin. Um, you know, um, uh, Kind of tease, Green Goblin tease. I mean, and in this one, as I said, we've started on Gwen, and we expanded on Gwen's past. And Peter knew that Gwen was Spider Woman. That was really well done in my opinion. And I feel that in this movie, especially, what really drove the story was Miles and Gwen's relationship. I mean, there isn't really any relationship, but obviously they're teasing that, that Miles does like Gwen and Gwen does like Miles. Obviously, there was a big scene, like real romantic scene. And by the way, I love Gwen Stacy's Dimension World art style, because her world art style is watercolors, and I just love watercolors art style. It's just really well done to me. Whereas Miles' art style is more of the comic book feel. You can really see the dots. And then you have Hobie's art style, which is very much the grunge punk style, which is just like the newspaper art style. I was really surprised that they did Spider-Man India, which is the Mumbattan one. I was really happy to see that, because it is an introduction into Asian Spider-Man. So that was, I think, if you're gonna do like a woke style, so to say, like like these type of things, I think that this is a really well integrated. It didn't feel like they were pushing an agenda. It was just simply him entering a new dimension. and it's a new Spider-Man. So I don't think that it was a forced diversity move. It was just simply another universe. And I think that was so well integrated and well woven into the story. So it didn't feel like I didn't feel like a push of an agenda like in Endgame when they did the whole um when posing thing. I was just like, oh, we didn't need that. Like, I think, them just fighting Thanos would have been better for me, a stronger message for me. But then again, what do I know? Like, it is made for some kids, smaller teens. I don't know, but for me, if it's going to be a stronger message, you don't need to say it, just show it. Like, obviously in the Endgame one, they did show it, but it kind of was overhanded showing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just felt an agenda push, which I didn't really enjoy. Anyway, back to Across the Spider-Verse here. I did like the cowboy style Spider-Man where his horse is wearing the spider mask, and when Miles asks him, is like, why does the horse need the mask? And then the cowboy Spider-Man is like, to mask his identity. What do you mean? And that made me laugh. So this movie made me laugh. It made me cry because there was a scene with him and his mom, and basically they were talking about relationships, and like how that the mom still sees him as a kid, because it's a mom. She's always gonna see her kids as kids. Like, it's hard for her to accept that Miles is growing up, essentially. And Miles does acknowledge it, and they have a really great heart to heart, and that really touched on my heartstrings. Um and the basically the final act, the second act, I would say, I did catch the Easter egg about his roommate playing the Spider-Man video game. I thought that was really great Easter egg. I'm really glad I caught that. But some scenes went by really quickly, so I couldn't really catch it. But I think that really the runtime, I didn't feel the runtime, because when the movie ended, I was like, is that it? No, like, that can't be it. So I literally sat through the whole credit scenes. I mean, I wanted to see who was the cast anyway, because I did hear Andy Samberg's voice. I obviously saw Childish Gambino, Donald Glover. I did hear some other voices, but I couldn't really tell. I saw Daniel Kaluuya's I saw Daniel Kaluuya's credit, but I didn't really hear him in the movie, so I don't know which one was he. I have to watch it again, obviously. Oh, I think he's Spider-Man. He's Hobie. Yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry. And Haley Steinfeld. Um, Obviously Nick Cage was not really in the movie until the end. And I should have expected the end, to be fair, because it was just kind of like it was kind of like Gravity Falls, when they were gonna end it. They were like, oh, okay, I have this band now. We're gonna save Miles, and in Gravity Falls it was more of, they were gonna save Mabel. So for me, I think that the art style was much better in this one. Obviously, the first one, I've gushed over the art style enough. Like, my friends were like, shut the fuck up about the art style, but I did not expect the level of the art style in the first movie. I think I've talked about this before, but I will talk about it again, because I think I was having like Spider-Man fatigue, because I was already sick of the Tom Holland Spider-Man, and I never would have thought I would see my Spider-Man, which is basically Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. And to be very honest with you, before the bandwagon happened, I rated Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I don't know what people's problem were with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. on a film dialogue level, yes, I agree that, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was not really great for the dialogue and the story, but Andrew Garfield himself as Spider-Man, I thought it was a really, really great showcase of Spider-Man. Um, and in Across the Spider-Verse, I feel that the whole meta commentary was definitely important, but some parts of it I felt like it was too much. I think that, for like I read some comics. I didn't read all the comics. I read some of it. And for basically, I guess a beginner level comic book reader, I was like, okay, I don't know who are these Spider-Man. Like I don't really, know them, but I do want to see more of them, obviously. And I feel that does kind of hinder some points of the movie, but in other points of the movie, it really does bring it back to the plot, the whole plot of Miles Morales feeling that he doesn't deserve basically the suit, right, of Spider-Man. So it's kind of a real double-edged sword for me, and in that way. And I did really feel for Miles when, Miguel O'Hara, or Spider-Man 2099, is basically like, you should not have been Spider-Man, because this spider was not supposed to bite you, it was supposed to bite someone else. And then now in that universe there's no Spider-Man, and like crime is rampant, and there's practically no hope. And Miles does go to that dimension, because practically, the whole, like, way back home, scans his DNA, and scans him as dimension 42 Spider-Man, and throws him into dimension 42. But he's actually not from dimension 42. He's from dimension 16610 or something like that. And he does see a life with his uncle still alive, and him being the Prowler. I mean, his alternate self being the Prowler. And it was really a crazy thing, because I was like, as soon as somebody came up and punched him, and he was in the ground. And there was already mention of, like, oh, you took a bird out, like, from the uncle. I was like, okay, where is this gonna go? But I kind of threaded the breadcrumbs and followed the breadcrumbs, and I was like, when Miles was like, but you don't have to be the Prowler, Uncle Aaron. And he's like, I'm not the Prowler. And I was like, okay, Miles is the Prowler in this universe, basically. So I think, it's gonna be hard for me to really rate it objectively, because I did really enjoy the movie a lot. So in terms of the art style, the story, and the plot, I think it was still very good for me, because even though, like, some of the meta commentary, I feel like it did kind of bump it down for me. But it was still important because of the way they did the whole integration of it into the story and the plot. So, and by the way, when I mean that the cameo hit harder for me here in Across the Spider-Verse, is because they used the clips that they already had, and it was the emotional parts of it, basically, literally why they have to be Spider-Man. Whether they lost Uncle Ben or Captain Stacy, that is what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man. That is literally him understanding that he needs to basically say he can't have his cake and eat it too. It's basically the cliche that they really drill into the movie. And Spider-Man's like, no, I can have it both, and he does have to face the fact that he can't have it both. So I feel like in the next movie, it's basically him having to face that fact. Miles, I mean. But I do wonder how they're gonna take the story, because it's basically gonna be him versus the big bad, obviously, the Spot. Um, and I did like that the creation of Spot is basically like from a throwaway joke. in the first movie. But it does make sense because in all superhero movies, whether Spider-Man, Batman, he creates his own villains basically because you can't save them all essentially. So yeah, for me I think this is gotta be a very strong 8 for me. I can't rank it down. I was thinking maybe I should give it a 7.5, but I can't because the music was great, the art style was great, the story was great. It wasn't just me being a Spider-Man fanboy, and obviously me being a Spider-Man fanboy obviously is gonna have like some relation to me ranking it a bit higher, but honestly, like if I didn't enjoy Spider-Man, if I didn't really like Spider-Man, I would have still liked the art style. I would have still liked how they took a story that I felt was really well done in the first movie and elevated it to a point where I was like, okay, I didn't think that they could do this, right? In the same vein of practically Kung Fu Panda 1 and Kung Fu Panda 2. But where I am afraid of it going the Kung Fu Panda route is that I felt Kung Fu Panda 3 really fell flat because they did have to go back and redo some things to make it more kid friendly. And what my hope is that if Miles Morales is kind of in that Kung Fu Panda route, essentially, to not water it down, to not dilute the story to make it kid digestible, because I do think that this trilogy of Miles Morales Spider-Man could be the best Spider-Man done in all history. I don't care if you like Tom Holland Spider-Man. For me, he's not really even up there as a great Spider-Man because I could really not care about Tom Holland Spider Man because when No Way Home happened, obviously the emotional part is him losing Aunt May, but that did not really click for me because I did not feel the relationship between him and Aunt May enough. I think him losing Tony Stark was a bigger thing than him losing Aunt May because essentially that was what happened for MCU Tom Holland Spider-Man. So for me, again, this could be one of the best Spider-Man movies done, and it's animated, and that's crazy to me because I 10-year-old Walter would have been flipped if he knew like there was going to be an animated Spider-Man that was so much better than the live action Spider-Man because I grew up with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man obviously, and even then I was like he's pretty alright for Spider-Man. I mean, it got me into Spider-Man, but when Andrew Garfield Spider-Man came out, I was like, this is hitting home for me because now I know what Spider-Man is. I know what he should be, and this is Spider-Man for me. But obviously some other people did not feel the same way, and it was changed to Tom Holland Spider-Man, and I was like, it's a bit of a letdown because I do like the MJ in Tom Holland Spider-Man. So, but yeah, it's a strong 8 for me. I think that I'm excited. I'm excited for the next one, and I really was disappointed that it ended so fast. But I looked at the watch and I was like, oh shit, it's like almost 2 hours, 30 minutes. Like it's almost a 3 hours movie. Like because I sat through the credits and when it faded to black the second time, I was like, ah shit, it really is over. Because there is no stinger at the end. There's no after credits. Basically, the after credits it's copying MCU. Now Spider-Man beyond the Spider-Verse will return. Essentially Miles Morales will return and that kind of thing, which I felt was kind of cheap. But yeah, for me, you know, aside from that, I don't know what else to say because this was a fucking amazing movie. Like top tier. Like, I'm just gonna have dreams about Gwen's world art style, Miles Morales world art style, and even Spider-Man 2099 art style. That was really like a futuristic art style, which I kind of, was sick of at one point. But how they integrated it, I was like, okay, that's really cool. Yeah. So that's about it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment below. How did you feel about the Spider-Man movie, into Across the Spider-Verse? I keep saying Into the Spider-Verse because Into the Spider-Verse kind of rolls off the tongue better. But yeah, what did you think about Across the Spider-Verse? Give your thoughts below in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you then.